So you want to nerd it out today because you like spreadsheets. So I decided after having an SUV for a long time that I wanted a full-size pickup truck. I hunt, camp, tow things throughout the year, and between yard work and doing home remodeling projects, and yard work and always having to haul large things from Home Depot. In yard work, I decided I want to get a truck, and I figured out which one I want to get. But lo and behold, the fuel mileage was horrible. 13 city, 17 highway, which I'm sure most of you are like, grr. But, I'm like, okay, how much money is this going to actually cost me? And what's the damage we're doing here? So I decided I'm going to start tracking my fuel mileage. And what better way to do that than with a giant spreadsheet? So there's apps you can use out there to do this kind of thing. I've tested them. I don't find them all that reliable. You're always, one bad update away from losing all your historical information. I just don't trust them, and it's easy enough to do in a handy-dandy spreadsheet. So, for example, I've used mint.com for years to track, all of our investment and savings accounts. But there's always, that glitch that happens every once in a while, or they lose support for tracking whatever it may be. So while it's a fine site and I love using it, I also keep a budget and kind of a financial snapshot in a spreadsheet as well that I work on every month so that I never lose the data, and I've been doing that for years. But I digress. So for the fuel chart, I've also been doing this for the last 3 vehicles for a number of years. And I'll start at the day I get it from the dealership. So typically I'll go buy the vehicle, get to the nearest gas station, fill it up, and then that's where the tracking starts. So call me crazy, but I think it's a lot of fun. So in my case, it's a lot about curiosity and knowing how the world works. Yes, I could sit at the pump and scroll Facebook for 2 minutes while the gas fills up, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a fine use of time for a little entertainment to catch up on things. But also, it could give you insight to your vehicle if you started tracking your mileage. So I'll go to the pump, fill it up, and then I'll take a picture of, kind of the gauges going on, how many gallons have been put in, what the price is, what it is per gallon, and also a picture of my odometer. I'm doing the computerized readout of how many miles I'm getting to the gallon. Yep. In my vehicle, which, is a rough estimate, and then that odometer reading. So I always know what mileage I'm at. So again, I'm getting insight. How are my driving habits? Is there something wrong with the vehicle? Knock on wood, I've never had any issues with that. But if you noticed the fuel mileage going down, maybe there's something going on that you need to investigate a little harder. Maybe you're stomping on the gas too much. Maybe you need to fill those tires up with a little more pressure. But it just is one insight into what's going on. So when I travel up north to go to my parents, in that 2-hour time frame, I have a good idea now of how much fuel my truck is sipping to get there. If the weather conditions are different, if it's strong wind, oncoming wind that's hitting my vehicle, which is it's a truck, it's not very aerodynamic, I'll notice that in the numbers next time I fill up with gas that it wasn't as efficient. I'll also see dips in the seasons. So when it's winter and it's colder, it'll generally be a little worse mileage than in the summer, and that has a lot of factors that could be contributing to that. You're letting your vehicle warm up for a little bit in the morning before you start going, and when it's at idle, you're getting 0 miles to the gallon. There's probably a little bit more friction with the oil and the viscosity and the transmission until those warm up, and generally your vehicle is going to run at a little bit higher of an idle until it gets to that proper running temp. Not to mention, being colder, the air's more dense. At highway speeds, you're probably not going to get as good efficiency either. So there's a number of factors, but it's interesting. If you track the data, you can actually see that it changes. One other thing I know, at least in Wisconsin, is they changed some of the formulation with the gas during the winter season, and that can also have an impact. So a lot of things working for you that could be interesting. Maybe it's not, but gives you a little insight on to what's going on. So here's the spreadsheet. Maybe I'll go into the guts of it. So this truck specifically is a 2014 Tundra, and I bought it used in 2018. Now you can see the mileage when I bought it was 20,221. And that's where I'm going to the gas station, doing that fill up and kind of setting that slate clean to start my stats. And then You know, since I bought this vehicle in Indiana, I'm sure this was kind of the return trip home, or at least on the way. I forgot how much mileage it was. But that day, I'm doing a fill up. What is my odometer reading? And then I have a simple formula that's just subtracting today's odometer reading, or at least this fill up, compared to the last one. So that's just an ongoing formula that goes all the way down. Then I'll mark how many gallons were filled. So that's done at the pump. So in this case, a little over 17 gallons were put in the truck. And this is my calculation. So I'm just doing some simple division here on how many miles it was since the last fill up and how many gallons were filled. And that gives me my mileage. I'll also note the MPGs on the computer, which I will say are not accurate, but over time they will average into exactly what you're getting, which you could see in a minute. And just for craps, you know, what is the price per gallon, and then what does that total fill-up cost? If I note those numbers and I look back at the photos I've taken at the pump, I know I did everything right because these should match. It sounds like a lot of work. It literally isn't. It's 3 pictures, fill up the tank, and I'll go back, you know, every couple months and just go through the photos and just quick dial them all into the spreadsheet, and I'm done. It's really easy. I'm sure a lot of people think it's nuts, you know, but I've seen friends with the notepad and the pen in their vehicle, and they're taking notes every time, which I adore and is freaking awesome. But you don't get the automatic calculations, which I love doing here. So you can see that I've done this since 2018, and I have all the data. You know, my calculated MPG from the computer has always been a consistent 15.8. If we go to the top, I have other formulas rocking and rolling. So average MPGs of all fill-ups I've ever done has been 15.8, matching the computer exactly. I also have a formula running through all of my fill-ups and finding what is the minimum and the maximum MPGs. So I said earlier, the truck gets 13 city, 17 highway, which pretty much correlates with what I'm getting. So the minimum, the worst I've ever done is 13.36 miles to the gallon. And the best I've ever done was 18.8. So I must have been hypermiling or something. But it's actually interesting. That was the very first fill-up I ever did. So I must have been coming back from that dealership. Brandon got his brand new truck, and he is babying it. He's not touching the gas. He's not swerving. You know, he doesn't want anything to happen. He just wants to get home safely with his new thing that he researched for months. So the first fill-up of 109 fill-ups, that was the best mileage I ever got, which is kind of funny. I have a notes column that'll also, you know, sometimes I'll leave notes to myself of things that happen. So I know that on this trip, I towed a pretty large pontoon boat and trailer from Green Bay to Crivets, stopping at a few different places that I had to be. And I noticed that my official MPGs was 13.63. So I did not do good that trip, but that just shows you, okay, if I tow a large load, even though I'm on the highway for 99% of the trip, that's going to, you know, slaughter your mileage. So at the top, I'm also calculating my average cost for fill up. What are my total miles that I've run on the truck so far? So we're at a little over 29,000. Looking at the dates now, because of this chart, I can easily tell that I'm doing slightly over 12,000 miles a year. So that's kind of under average. I think usually they're saying 15,000, 13.5 to 15,000. That's average you'd expect in a vehicle a year. So right now I'm getting a little over 12,000 a year. Partially I'm getting that because of the pandemic, and I'm not driving to work every day. So that's helping me not put so many miles, you know, going to work. So total cost in this amount of time, you know, a little over $4,500. It is what it is, and it's pricier since I have a truck. It's not a Prius, and I'm not in a city where I'm just going to the grocery store and work and back, and that's it. I got a full-size truck, and I'm doing things with it and longer trips, and that cost is going to get you, and that's part of the game. But to operate some of these formulas, I need to know, you know, what's the total days that I have this going, so that's automated as well. And then I can tell you what's my cost per day, cost per mile, and miles per day. I don't know if some of that I find all that interesting. It's fun to look at. You know, once you create it, it always calculates itself. So I guess it's no more work on my part. But where I really like looking is what are these averages, and what can I do to make those numbers get better or better. I don't want them to ever get worse. So that's it in a nutshell. That's the name of the game. You can create charts kind of showing, where your mileage is. Again, I say it goes down in the winter, up in the summer, and I kind of see that trend. But for the most part, there's a lot of consistency with the truck and the performance and the fuel mileage I'm getting. So just another little insight I can have onto the vehicle. I think it'd be cool to show this to whoever buys this truck next, to say, hey, I kind of have some records here. Not only of when I had maybe oil changes or anything else done, but I cared so much that I tracked the fuel mileage too, and I want you to know it's spot on, and it's just cool info. I'll also say, people that own the same vehicle or the same brand and model, make and model, it's interesting because like in the off-road community, they're going to put on beefier suspension, some lifts, bigger tires, racks on the top with the lights, and they'll, see that, I used to be getting 20 miles to the gallon on the highway, and now I'm getting 15. What's up? If you did some tracking and if you kept modding your vehicle over time, you'd be able to see, wow, because of the air intake mod that I did, or all the accessories that I put on the outside, which hampered the aerodynamics, this is what I'm now doing, and it's going to end up costing me more, just to follow these hobbies. So just some other data points. But we're in winter right now, so, make sure you keep those tires inflated at the proper PSI. Make sure you're not, running it too long. You're actually going to help your vehicle warm up if you start driving it. I don't know what the recommendation is. Give it 30, 60 seconds. If it's cold, just let it warm up a little bit. But rock and roll. That's all there is to it. I hope someone is inspired to geek out and get a little into the weeds on their vehicles.